while Clay gets back, I'll start setting this up for our main topic. The comic, the beat. I don't know why I keep calling. I guess the website is Comics Beat.
Comics Beat, yeah.
Yeah. Dean Simons wrote an article, called the Comixology Rest in Peace. I thought it was a fall and rise of Comixology, but that's kind of what it's about, right?
That is what it's about, yeah.
As you guys may know or may not know, if you don't use Comixology, the Comixology app is really no more as of December 4th. They've merged it with the Kindle app. So we're gonna talk a little bit about some of some of the things that the article highlighted, and it's really good article. Go check it out. Uh, I don't usually read, period. But this was interesting enough. I think there's a lot of people that were upset by all the things happening at the company and then also in the app. So
Here,
I was
I'm
going to
going to
ask.
show you on my tablet. I still have it installed. So if I hit the Comixology app, watch this.
I mean, we could just see the blank screens. Oh, there it
Oh
is.
wait, it opened this time.
Yeah, there it is. It's telling you. It's telling you to move.
Last time it didn't open. It just it went black and it just went back to the home screen. So
I wonder. It does ask you to move to Kindle. So, and I've checked the Kindle app. It looks about the same on the iPad.
yeah, it's just.
But I know each device has different things. Jeff, you were going to say something? Sorry.
I was going to ask who uses, because I had Comixology for a while before Amazon, before the 4.0 rollout. I don't like reading comics digitally. I like having a thing, like I'm old, so whatever. But so then do you use the Marvel Unlimited and like which apps do you guys use?
I prefer reading digitally, actually.
I mean, it saves a lot of space. I understand it.
Well, no. I mean, you see how many comics I buy, so it's definitely not a space saving thing. It's easier. I mean, I guess also now that we're doing a bunch of reviews, but even before that, I would prefer. Like, I love that Marvel gives you a digital code that used to work with Comixology. Like, it doesn't sync anymore, so like I can only look at a certain backlog, and then they stop like the merging.
Right. Yeah.
So they dropped all that. So, but yeah, if I'm gonna revisit something, it makes it so much easier, and that's kind of where the article starts, right? The beginning of Comixology, the startup, it came at the perfect time because Apple had just rolled out the iPhone, and these guys were looking to see how can they capitalize on people wanting to read comics in a more accessible form, while still being able to be on the go. And that's kind of what drove this innovation. And then the release of the iPhone really helped, because they had revolutionized the guided view technology, which kind of takes you through the page. It's a tour of the page as they described it, and then it just zooms in and out for you, and it does all the things that make it a lot easier for you to, like, with just a phone in your hand, to like read a comic book, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to like having to have a full device or be pinching in and zooming out. So like they kind of revolutionized all that. So it came at the perfect time. And it feels like a lot of the things really aligned with Comixology, because once they had a relaunch where, like, I believe the article mentions it was like they were gonna focus, like, they had just done like a big massive overhaul of their system, and that's when the iPad came out. So like now they could also have the like, you could read your comics in a full format. You could read, like it was more of the same size experience. So like it really feels like a lot of the things just went very right for this company. Now know a few people that worked at Comixology. My buddy Mike from the Irish books, he used to work at Comixology.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
And then when the layoffs happened, I believe he had already moved over to a different team, so he wasn't fully affected by that. And I mean, I don't know. That's not my story to tell, but yeah, that I just I know a few people that work with Mike, because through Mike I met a bunch of people that also worked at Comixology through the layoffs and stuff. But and that's kind of when 4.0 kicked off, and that's where a lot of people feel like it's the point where, like, because it all happened at the same time, right? I guess the one thing I didn't mention, Amazon acquired Comixology in 2014 because Amazon's Kindle comics app sucked ass. So when a company can't make a product work, they do usually is they just acquire a company that's doing it better, and that's just capitalism, and it sucks.
But, but what's
That's,
so
that's the
weird,
real villain of his story.
yeah. But what's so weird about that is because I was a devoted Comixology user for years and years, and in fact, Danny, you know this, like Comixology, because you could subscribe to new releases in it, got me back into reading new releases.
Yep.
I had not been doing that for a very long time. And when 4.0 rolled out, it felt like a punch to the face because it was such a terrible app. And that it was like, why would you acquire a company like Comixology that's doing everything better than your native app and then shoehorn comics reading into a reskinned version of your native app, which is what the 4.0 version was.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was awful. It was such an awful experience. And that's when I bounced. I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. Right.
Mm-hmm.
The writing's on the wall. So I wasn't surprised when the news came out that the app was going away, but reading comics is fundamentally different than reading ebooks.
Yep.
And trying to fit that into the Kindle app just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. No, I think part of the success, and the article goes into a lot of detail about this, a lot of the success of Comixology was, first of all, they were really focused on collaborating with the publishers. So they helped at some point, like every publisher, I think, had their own Comixology kind of clone app, right? Like DC had their own thing, Marvel had their own thing, Dark Horse, Image.
But I don't think Dark Horses was reskinned. I could be wrong.
Maybe not. Yeah, I don't know. I think the article doesn't mention Dark Horse, but they weren't as robust as Comixology, but they were they're very similar, right? I think the guided view technology, which I remember talking to some people don't like guided view. I love guided view.
See, I'm not a fan of guided view, but here's the other weird thing that I don't know if they've announced if that's technology is going to come to this new Kindle experience, but in the comic scholarship world, guided view is talked about a lot. Like that's how revolutionary it was.
Yeah.
I could pull 3 books off my shelf from comic scholars talking about guided view. I mean, that's how important it is.
It makes it more accessible because there's a lot of, viewer impaired readers or just for like any kind of purpose that you would need an app to kind of zoom in for you where you can't. It does that for you. The other thing is, of course, the platform kept getting more robust as it went on before the acquisition. And then the other thing was the Comixology Submit program, which gave a lot of indie creators access to a larger audience. And it's kind of a curated list of like, oh, these are all, these are cool comics that are being done in a very small scale.
It's so funny, like the reach and the opportunity that had. Just as a weird anecdote, when I was at the last Comic Studies Society conference, which was in Denton, they invited a bunch of local creators to like set up tables and stuff. And I was walking along, and on one of the tables was a book that I had bought on the Comixology Indie app. I didn't know the creator was in the area. I'd never met her, but I saw the book and I'm like, oh my God, you wrote and drew that. I love that book. It was great, and I got to like meet her and talk to her. I wouldn't have had that opportunity without Comixology, really, so.
And to Josh's earlier point, like even the services as being able to put together a pull list service or having the subscription where sometimes you forget that books are coming out. So the app would be very good about reminding you like, hey, you're reading this. Maybe you should want to check this out or whatever. Or the story continues here or whatever the case may be. So like all those things. And I feel like once the acquisition happened, and my theory on the acquisition is that Amazon just wanted the guided view. Like the rights.
I wouldn't get it.
Because the technology was so innovative. and that's kind of how it works, right? If you can't build it, then just go buy it from somebody that already built it.
Does their Kindle reader have a guided view now?
I'm looking at it, and I gotta say, I just filtered by my comics and manga, and it only shows 55 titles, and I know I have way more than that in my Comixology library. So it's like, where the fuck is all the rest of my stuff? But here, let me try. So I'm gonna open.
But that's the other thing. It is almost impossible to read on a web browser.
Yeah.
Through Comixology or even Kindle now, I guess.
I
it
mean,
just doesn't feel as natural.
I think Danny's right, is that because the article does mention that so Amazon's Kindle reader was killing it with just regular books, because those are easily that's easy, you just read that. But they were having problems with their graphic novels and stuff like that, getting it to work over that. So yeah, I 100% think they wanted the whatever it's called, the slow read or whatever it's called.
Sorry, Jeff. All right, so I have opened. I gotta hold this against my face because I can't do it otherwise. All right, I have opened the Rocketeer, and it will go into guided view, but not by default, which I'm okay with. But
see, on the tablets is not as bad. I think the worst part of it is on the, because what is that? What tablet is that?
It's Kindle Max 11.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So like I rarely had any like big issues on my iPad where I would be like, oh, this is an unreadable experience. It was usually on like the queue. Yeah, I'll get to you, Clay, in a second. But like it was usually more about like things maybe not fully syncing over, especially after the launch of 4.0.
Yeah, my whole library is not there anymore, apparently, and it's also deeply concerning.
After the acquisition, Amazon stopped allowing readers to buy stuff through the app on iPhone or on Apple devices, because Apple takes 30% of any purchases, and I think eventually Android and other operating systems follow suit. So yeah, they stopped allowing people just because they didn't want, which makes it a lot less accessible and a lot less flexible, right?
Check this out. So I'm on the Kindle app on my phone. Here, if I go to my library and my comics and manga, I have 1,145.
Oh, nice. They are lost.
So what is happening on their own device with their own app that it won't access all my comics?
What's the disconnect, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Clay, you wanna chime in here, like on your experience with Comixology and stuff?
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, it just.
but did it always, like? What about?
No, when it was just Comixology, it was fine. It was when they started to spin off into the other things, and then have any of y'all lost comics?
Yes.
Okay. Like I had a Die Hard series that I guess maybe the rights weren't maintained, and so I lost that comic altogether. Mm-hmm. So I don't think the digital purchases are worth it, because you only own them. You only own them as much as they have the license to have them digitally available to you.
Right.
So and plus they can also alter things, which I don't care for either. So, like I went and tried to pull up mine's, it's a mishmash with my comics and then books that I have too. So, you have the option to say comics and manga, but then it's just to pitch you like everything's like Kindle Unlimited. Like that's their, solve all. And that's probably good for some people who maybe don't have access to a local comic shop or bookstore. Right. And so they can consume as much as possible. But, it was neat when Comixology dropped, because it was like fans creating an app for fans. And then it got like kind of separate, where Marvel was like, hey, we have our app, and then DC had their app, and then their apps got phased out.
Yeah.
And so I for a year, I mean, I had problems redeeming on the Marvel app. It was a constant headache. They've kind of fixed theirs now, but pull it back up, Josh.
Sorry. I'm on my phone in the Kindle app, and again, it's guided views available, but not by default. right? Which again, I'm not against, but I feel like it should know the device. So if I'm on a tablet, maybe default to the full page, and if I'm on a phone, default to the guided view.
Yeah,
right.
reading on the that'd
So
be that'd just be good UI experience, really.
exactly, yeah.
I mean, to me, you know, I would rather like go to get a library than pay for something that I may lose later. Because if I get the library experience and read it and I want to buy it and revisit it, then I can go to a local comic shop and do that. I don't feel like Amazon did anything to improve anything in the comics industry at all. They, in fact, more wrecked it. I'm not a big fan of Amazon. I don't pay for any of their movies. I don't pay for their service anymore. That's kind of where we're at. We're seeing, you know, the big guys gobble up the small business, even if the small business was Comixology that had like less than 500 people working for them at the most.
Right, but here's the interesting thing, and I would love to see some data on this, because the shift, the shoehorning of this into Kindle was so bad that, like, anecdotally, I left it, and it drove me back to my local comic store buying books in person. So I actually wonder how much Amazon has shot themselves in the foot with this move. And it's benefiting. It's doing the opposite of what they did with the book market. It's hopefully benefiting the local comic book stores by sending more people there to get their books, because Comixology was the digital default, right? And so I would love in like a year or two to see charts of comic sales at local stores.
And I remember when you used to redeem, you would say like, where did you buy this at? So that your local comic shop like had like numbers within the publishing of like, hey, you know, we've got like 50% of people redeeming their comics from Zeus Comics and from Urban Legends, you know, to digital. So maybe, you know, play with that number and look at what they can do to improve their sales. But I mean, as digital got worse, and then I eventually tried Marvel Unlimited, which was a big old piece of shit for me. Like it never worked for me. I don't know who actually does the guided view, because it was done so terribly in any of the things that I tried to read. So to me, Marvel Unlimited was never worth it. So why would I get Kindle Unlimited? You know, I'm more of a Marvel zombie. It would give me a chance to dip into some other books, but in the end, I know what I would be subscribing for. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So is the digital comics world now sort of like just like regular streaming, where you go like there's no middle thing anymore? So you got to go to Marvel Unlimited, you got to go to DC. Does Image have their own thing, I'm assuming?
Well, that's a great segue, Jeff, for what I was going to bring up. So yes, we do have what a professional. Of course, we do have. So Marvel and DC do have their subscription services, but there are a few alternatives that I found. An article mentions these. So this is the Omnibus app, and now I haven't used these, so maybe we'll do a follow-up show where maybe we'll find somebody that has used them and come in here, or maybe I'll
but see what it's doing right there. That is the one feature from Comixology I miss the most. To me, the greatest feature of Comixology was I could go in and just look at a publisher's page.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. So I would go and be like, here's Fantagraphics and here's everything that they've released. And I loved that. And that never translated over to the Kindle.
And Amazon does that on their website, but it's so buried deep within of their own, of throwing their own shit on there. And then the other alternative is the Global Comics app. So I don't think they have an extra. I think this is just an app. Like I don't think they have a website.
All right.
Like Omnibus does. But I also haven't. I think this one is more of a subscription service, if I'm not mistaken. But they also, both of these offer alternatives for publishing and stuff, and they're always signing up. Like there's some publishers here I've never even heard of before. So like really cool. And then also you can see some of the larger indie publishers. At least I think Marvel and DC are just going to stick with their own service because it makes sense for them.
I think it does. But you know what I would really like to see, and I think now is the time for it to happen. I'm a big fan of the service Libro.fm. And it's an audiobook service that's a direct competitor of Audible. But the cool thing they do is when you sign up to it, you can pick a local independent bookstore to partner with. And then when you buy audiobooks on them, it gives some of the funds back to support that local bookstore. We need a digital comics app for friendly local comic shops, right? So it's like if you buy the digital app, you're still supporting it, right? So for instance, if I go to Jeff's store and I buy a comic there, maybe it gives me a discount for the digital copy on the app, or vice versa. If I choose Jeff's store in the app and I buy the digital copy, maybe a portion of the funds go to them, right? Like, and in particular with the way that the direct market supply chain, I just fucking forgot the term for it. Like Diamond and all these distributors, how that's fracturing. I feel like this is between that and the end of Comixology. This is the moment for like shops to partner with like app makers, like maybe one of those two that currently exists, or maybe they, make their own. But like, it's such an interesting model because I want to support both. I want to support my local comic shop, but I also sometimes want digital comics. It'd be great if there was some sort of like synchronicity between them. So,
I do think that so there was another discussion in our chat and our Discord chat between the boys about the comic shop owner that went viral earlier this week. About,
this is boy stuff. You posted that, Jeff.
I do think these are two tangible, like these are connected things a little bit, because we are talking about the market, and I put it in the chat because I just Googled like how are comic book sales, and they're all up. Like they're all projected to just keep shooting up.
That's awesome.
And
to the moon,
so
baby.
it does make me wonder where those sales are coming from, because if they were digital, like this could hurt that. But it also does make me think that this is a good time for comic book shops to kind of reassess what they are about. And I mean, the numbers are there. Like people want to buy the comics. It's just how are you going to get those customers into your store?
I'm also curious, like if this was, we talked about like how bad Amazon has handled this, that not only maybe it pushed people to go to comic shops, but Humble Bundle has offered a ton of comics DRM free.
That's
how big has that gotten? Because it gives you the opportunity to collect things like Hellboy,
The article
just sample a ton of image books.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
The article touches definitely on DRM free comics, which a lot, like less and less publishers are doing it because, I don't know, greed or whatever.
Because they think it's, it does allow you to share it with your friends and do stuff like that and pirate, the hell out of them. But like, I'm curious, what are the pirating numbers? Like, do they even have an idea? Because it's easy to find these sites. They're not like hidden.
They're not hiding it. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, there is, I believe there is so much data that the pearl clutching about DRM free stuff is just false, right? Because again, if I give you a PDF from a Humble Bundle, the chances are better that if you like what you read, you're going to go buy it, right? I mean, it just, and that, I mean, and this goes back to the dawn of comics in the 40s and the 50s. It was notorious that kids would share comics between each other, right?
Yeah.
Passing them along. And that only helped sales. It didn't hurt sales, right? It helped them. So,
well, isn't that where distillery comes in? Because isn't their business model, it's a blockchain. So essentially when you buy a comic from them, granted, I still feel like if they're going to be in the comic business, they need to print comic size. They're, they have everything I've seen is the big books. Are they printing anything comic size?
No, it's all magazine size.
Forcing me to go buy a magazine box.
Right.
Yeah. Now I have to buy a magazine rack.
But you're also getting like full-size jock art. So it's and him doing his own thing, which is amazing.
Well,
I didn't realize the distillery is like the article said that some of the people behind distillery were the people behind.
Yeah, Chip Mosher, who was part of the Comixology submit program, the indie program. So yeah, you're right. The article definitely does go into that. This was one of the alternatives. The other thing I wanted to share, and we talk about this all the time, Hoopla is a fantastic alternative.
Yeah, absolutely.
That works with, you pay taxes probably, and that funds your local library.
I'm talking to you, Wesley Snipes.
That's right. Yeah, now you can't use Hoopla, Wesley Snipes. I guess it depends, right? Because I think libraries are funded by our property taxes. I don't know. Texas is weird with taxes, and because there's no state income tax. Anyways, I'm not an expert on that. But what I do,
more about that idea.
What I am
an
expert
started
on
is, Texas government.
Oh, yeah. They can't even. No. Never mind. But yeah, it's really cool. Like, I mean, this works with your full. This is for a full library, so you can get more than comics. But that's mainly what I use it for. So it's a great alternative. And to you guys' point, like, I think I've never been like, oh, I'm gonna buy this comic digitally. I don't ever want to have it physically, especially if I like it. If I like it, then I'm even gonna chase down the collection, right? So like,
yeah.
I mean, I have stuff I bought as singles, then as trades, then as hardbacks. I mean, Miracle Man. How many Starman books do I got to own? All of them, apparently.
But
all of them.
I do think that, but I do think there's some people out there that do just digital, like straight up digital, and they always get bitten. Like, I think the PlayStation Network just announced that they were wiping everybody's like movies that they bought.
Well, that's a Zaslav thing because it's only Discover content.
Discovery.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, because the dude's a dick. I don't know what his deal.
So if you watched MythBusters and really enjoyed it and you bought it so you'd have it on your PlayStation, it's gonna disappear. So that's another downside of digital purchasing.
A very earnest question for Mr. David Zaslav. Who hurt you?
All right, now that you got to clip and post on its own. That's perfect.
I'll pull it.
Cool. All right. So yeah, is there any other final thoughts? So I did want to mention. I did.
You know how they have those. Sorry, Daniel. I was just saying. You know how they have those like invite your 5 people to your guest dinner. I'd be like, let's invite David Zaslav and Michael Eisner and like just some of the other heads.
David, come on the show. Come on the show. We'll hear your side of the story.
And then you serve them all red cat mushrooms.
Right.
Yeah. I pull the Julia. Is it the what's her name? The Julia Childs. She went to Congress to fund for PBS. She made everybody this like beautiful meal. And then she was like, "We would not be able to do this without PBS." It was kind of.
It was poisoned.
Oh, that's awesome.
Died.
Yeah. It was poisoned.
So yeah, shout out to my buddy Jeff because I asked in a few Discords that I'm part of, like, when did Comixology die for you? Jeff mentioned that when the layoffs happened, because that's affecting like people's livelihoods, right? Who cares if I can't read my stupid comics? Like, you are affecting somebody's livelihood and their means of income. So. And then Ricardo, he's the one that mentioned Omnibus and Global Comics. So maybe we'll try them out because there are people that are digital only readers and they don't have many alternatives, which kind of sucks. So hopefully these apps pan out. I really don't need another one. I'm very lucky. We're very lucky that we get a lot of previews for stuff that we can read digitally. But I know a lot of people don't have that luxury. So start a podcast, work on it for a long time, and then reach out to publishers. That's the long game alternative.
Yeah,
I am only doing this. Yeah, we're only doing this podcast so that we can get free comic book previews. Marvel, send us preview for your comics. Come on.
Hey, if you had told 12-year-old me that at some point in my life I'd be getting free preview copies of comics, I'd been like, "That's a thing?
That's crazy. That is
crazy. I am here for it."